Now, Positively Ernie with Ernie Anastas, a New York TV legend and radio host with great positive stories and interviews.
Thanks, Ernie. You're the best.
And now, here's Ernie.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the show. Positively Ernie is here with you. And I love doing this show because, we have a chance to really talk about a lot of good things. Things that are happening in our world that you need to hear about, that we need to share. We need to find out how we can find solutions to problems, okay? And I want to talk to some of our very special guests because I handpicked them. And today I chose somebody very special. Her name is Victoria Schneps, and I welcome you to the program. Hi, Victoria.
Thank you. Delighted
nice to have
you
you
here.
It's a sweet, sweet moment to be together in person. Let me tell you about Victoria. She's a very unusual person who has a lot of gifts. Victoria is a journalist. She is a philanthropist. She is helping the needs of special individuals in many different ways. For the past 52 years, she has a nonprofit, Garden City, Long Island, and Life's Works is what it's all about. And we're going to talk about that and a lot of great things that you're doing. I welcome you, and it's so nice to have you here.
Thank you. But you left out that I'm a businesswoman.
Oh, listen.
I'm an entrepreneur. That's my first, I think, because I'm an entrepreneur, is how I started Life's Work.
Yeah, that's a great story. That's kind of a given as being a businesswoman because all the things you're doing, it's under the umbrella of being an entrepreneur.
Yes.
And looking for opportunities. Now, look, I have so much to talk to you about. I want to start talking about something that's very near and very dear to you, and that's Life's Work. This is a very special nonprofit, as I mentioned, in Garden City, Long Island. Tell us how you help over 2,000 individuals with special needs. Tell me about that.
Well, it really started with my firstborn child. Mm-hmm. Lara was to be my first of hopefully many children, but Lara turned blue in the nursery when she was born and suffered irreparable brain damage.
Wow.
So for the first year of her life, we looked for a cure. What was the problem? And then when we were told there was no cure.
No, 52 years ago.
She will be always a 3-month-old.
Yeah.
So she needed to be fed, she needed to be diapered. And then you look for help. And looking around, literally around the world where they have children that could, because I'm an optimist, I feel they're going to help.
Yeah.
So we found a place on Staten Island called Willowbrook.
Sure.
And Willowbrook had just built an infant rehabilitation center. So with great trepidation but hope, we brought Lara to Willowbrook. And when we were at Willowbrook, I lived in a wonderful building in Bayside, and my lovely ladies said, Vicki, there but for the grace of God, go on. My kids are healthy.
Yeah.
How can I help you? Let's start an organization.
Oh, great.
And we started WORC.
Yes.
Women
Yes.
for Children. And so we every week sent busloads of volunteers to help the children at Willowbrook. And we raised money for the people at Willowbrook.
And Willowbrook was a big story in New York.
What happened is that the budget was slashed for the school by Governor Rockefeller. And immediately people who were the direct care workers were fired.
Yes.
And the budget cuts literally became a killing cut.
Oh, yeah, it was a big story.
Because children were dying. And so my lovely ladies and I became marchers and picketers.
Yeah.
And a young cub reporter from Eyewitness News,
Geraldo Rivera, my dear friend,
was snuck in by a doctor at Willowbrook.
Yeah.
And really told the story.
Yes,
because
he did.
when I was marching and picketing, I was knocking on air. Nobody listened until Geraldo passionately told the story of what was going on behind this doors.
And Geraldo, made a huge mark as a reporter and as a guy who was genuinely concerned about helping others. That put him on the map. And he was just amazing.
He certainly, his passion really ignited the entire city and then the country. But my husband was a lawyer, and he said, this place is never going to be any good. We've got to file a federal class action lawsuit.
Okay.
And we did file that lawsuit, and we won that lawsuit, and Willowbrook was closed down.
Yes.
It's now the College of Staten Island. And all the group homes that exist in our communities came out of our class action lawsuit. And so Life's Work was not only has it been born and flourished, but we opened the first group home for children from Willowbrook in Little Neck, and I had death threats.
Oh, my goodness. Wait a
People
minute.
didn't want it in their neighborhood.
Really? Now, I don't recall that part of the story.
Well, nobody knows about that.
No.
But when we, Geraldo actually did a concert with John Lennon and Yoko Ono, and we got $250,000 from that event.
wow.
And we went out and we had this house in Little Neck, Queens, that was perfect for us on a half an acre in New York City. Imagine.
Yeah. Wow.
But the neighbors did not want
Did not
us.
want that. So you had real
they sued
problems
us.
here. Wow.
And they said we should be in manufacturing neighborhoods, not in residential.
What a struggle this turned out
And
to
I
be.
had death threats. I had to
Yeah.
take my Schneps license plates off
That's
my car.
incredible.
People got crazy.
That's incredible.
And as much as I explained to them
Yeah.
what children were coming, what the house would be like to be their home, they just didn't get it.
Okay.
And it was very interesting. Today, it's almost very similar to what's happening with all the conflicts in our world. People who are for and get it. And you can't change one person's
Right.
mind who was
Right.
against it. So
Okay.
they sued us, but we
Yeah.
won.
You won.
In
You got
court.
past all of that.
We made law that
Okay.
every group home can be in residential neighborhoods, and we opened that house, and appropriately we named it the Geraldo Rivera Group Home.
Oh, it's great. Well, you had a ribbon cutting ceremony.
Well, that's something else.
And I was going to say
50
that
years
that's
later.
a recent thing. Exactly. But that
Yes.
we want to, as we always do in journalism, we advance the story. So
Yes.
bring us up to date to where you are right now. It's a great history, though,
Yes,
by the way.
well, it starts with one, and my daughter Lara was the one.
Yeah.
That's what's interesting in life, how
Right.
one change in my life
Oh, it's all it
made
takes.
the world of change
Yeah,
for the
yeah.
world. And so today we operate 50 group homes in Nassau, Suffolk, Queens, Manhattan, and run programs for children now in the autism
That is
spectrum.
marvelous.
Because, the
Yeah.
autism is an exploding
Yes.
problem of families needing help for their children.
Tell me something, because we always like to look at a situation, as I said at the very beginning of the show. We take a problem, and where are we going with it? Are we making progress? Is there a solution? How are we doing in terms of, autism, helping our children, and also all the other special needs? Give us an update. And I want to hear
So I'm
something
going to tie
positive
that in.
here. Yeah.
Well, it's positive. I mean,
Yeah.
I must tell you that the board of directors chose to put my name on the building that's their headquarters.
Yeah.
And Governor Hochul came to the ribbon cutting, as well as did Mayor Adams. I was so thrilled to
I
see
saw
him.
the pictures, yeah.
But when Governor Hochul came, I wore a green suit. And I said to her on the stage,
Yeah.
and she was sitting in front of me, I'm wearing green because I'm coming to ask for money. Because
That'll
we
say it.
need dollars
Yeah, of course.
to staff the group homes
Yeah.
in the appropriate manner. That's our next battle, our
Right.
next challenge, to get the right funding.
Yeah, you're hoping
for
the
these
legislature
homes.
will do that.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so
I know that.
I made the appeal to her in my green suit, and she said, well, I thought you wore green because you knew I was Irish.
Kind of a combination, right? Well, that's great. Well, we certainly hope you get the money to continue your work, because you're doing amazing things to help people out. And that's the greatest gift you can give in life. You've had amazing success, and we're going to talk about your newspapers and magazines and the publishing business. But I want to talk about that frog that people can see. They get a nice close look at that frog pendant, that beautiful pin that you're wearing. And there's a story behind it, because you have a ring as well. Tell us about the frog. I love this story.
Well, I did channel Madeleine Albright, who was a brilliant Secretary of State.
Sure.
But I really wear it because of the message of a frog. Few people know that a frog is the one species on Earth that cannot turn his head to the left,
Right.
can turn or her head to the right,
To the right, yeah.
and cannot turn their head back.
Yeah.
A frog can only look forward.
I love that.
And I think that's been my life.
What a
and,
symbol.
And how you have
Yeah.
found this new program to bring to
Yeah.
us all
Right.
here in New York. And it's all about looking forward.
Yes, it is.
We all were touched in our lives, or we wouldn't have lives.
Exactly.
But it's what you do with what happens to you that makes the difference in the quality of your life.
We have talked. You and I, Vicki, have had lunch. We've discussed a lot of wonderful things and positive thoughts. And we both agree on so many things. Passion, commitment, knowing that you have a purpose in life, and that you're going to fulfill that dream that you have within. And that's exactly what you're doing. Now, you're doing it with this wonderful nonprofit, helping so many people, but you're also doing it in the media business as a publisher.
I really have to thank Geraldo Rivera.
Go ahead.
Because he was my inspiration. My master's degree is in teaching. I was a teacher in my first life.
Yeah.
I only wanted to be a teacher from the second grade
That's
on.
a good thing.
I wanted to be a teacher. In Western Queens, and I'm in Eastern Queens.
Right.
So I said, I'll be a cub reporter for you. And I was, we had a lot of money. I got $100 a week, Ernie.
Wow, big bucks. But you started off as a reporter, which is a fundamental thing.
So you'll love this, because I don't know if this happened to you, but I would write a story.
Yes.
And then I'd bring it to John,
Right.
and he'd edit it like crazy. He said, okay, now go back and rewrite it.
Yeah.
And I'd write it again and rewrite it, and I'd bring it to him, and he says, no, it just needs a little. So he was really my mentor.
You learned a lot.
I did.
Sure.
But my husband got fed up with my working 24/7 for $100 a week.
Oh, boy.
So I went and I became Alan Hevesey's press secretary.
There you go. So you continued in journalism, really.
But on the other side, and, it just didn't work out. But I said to John in 1985,
Right.
every building has had the opportunity to go co-op. And I know and believe that when you own your home or you own your apartment,
Right.
you care about the neighborhood.
Sure.
So I said, now, where I lived in Bayside was a lot of vertical homes, a lot of apartment buildings. They had
Right.
gone co-op.
Right.
And I said, I think we have an opportunity to start a paper here. So he says, you think you can sell a few ads?
That's the business.
I said, yes.
You gotta get ads.
I'll put it out there. So I sold you'll love this one.
Yeah.
I sold an ad to my brother, my mother,
In the family.
my jeweler, my realtor, and my hairdresser.
That's how it starts.
I'm still using Christie and Company.
Oh, there you go. So they
And
got
she's
you.
a good advertiser.
So you started with one.
Yes.
And now you've got, give me the number, is it?
91.
91.
Well, I did have a
91.
little hidden blessing in there. So I started the papers, and, John was a political editor. And so we used to fight every week what articles would go in. Because
Yeah.
I wanted to cover community, he wanted to cover politicians.
Okay.
So about a year or two after I worked with him, and we took every picture and we wrote every article, I said, John, I think I should buy you out.
Oh.
And I did. I bought him out, and I hired somebody who was a professional journalist.
There's the businesswoman right there. There you go.
And so, we began our journey that I owned the paper, and then I had the paper in Northeast Queens.
Right.
And then people from Astoria came to me, and people from Southeast Queens, and we started building papers, and
Fabulous.
I built a Spanish paper from scratch.
This is incredible.
So after 12 papers,
Yeah.
my son, who is now a graduate and was in investment banking, called me one night.
Yeah.
And he says, Mom, if I'm going to work 24/7, could I come work for you?
Oh.
He knew my rhythm.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, well, he followed Mom's beat. That's for sure.
So
Yeah.
he joined the company, but he was a numbers man. I'm kind of the creative person.
Okay.
And not that he isn't creative,
So
too.
he expanded the business.
So when he joined us after
Yeah.
a few years of learning the business, I
Right.
sent him down to Howard Beach, and I was in Bayside.
Okay.
So he learned under a mentor. One of
I
my
love that.
employees mentored
Mother
him.
and son. That's great.
And he joined me, but he, knew the business of numbers.
Sure.
And so we got an opportunity to buy some papers in Brooklyn. Mm-hmm. So I said, Josh, we have 12 papers in Queens. Why do we need Brooklyn? I said, what neighborhood is it? He says, Bay Ridge. I said, oh, Bay Ridge.
Special.
When I got married,
Yeah.
I wanted to live in Bay Ridge.
Oh, there you go.
Because it overlooks the
See,
Verrazano
it
Bridge.
becomes
It's
an
beautiful.
emotional thing many times when we get involved in businesses. No question
yes.
about. But you know what? I also have to say this because we're in the business together. I've owned radio stations. I've been in television, a newspaper as well, up in Saratoga. So I know what it feels like. But, whether you own it or whether you just work it, the most important thing in our industry is knowing that you can do something to help people, that you can put stories on the air. Walter Cronkite, who sits on my desk, who was my mentor, he said, most important thing, he said, we are watchdogs. Yes. We bark. We're not attack dogs and we're not lap dogs, but we're watchdogs. So you put a story out there, you have them read it, you have them see it, and you allow people to think and know more about what's going on. Isn't that the greatest gift that you have now as a publisher?
Yes.
To be able to put these stories together?
I never thought about it as a watchdog. What a beautiful way to express it.
Exactly.
Well, our beat are the neighborhoods that people live in. And I think we're thriving because they know we're not a political paper. I don't come from one perspective or another.
I think that's a good thing.
I come from a community
I think that helps a lot. Yeah.
And they trust us that we tell it like it is in the communities. And our news is local news, covering what's going on in the schools, in the churches,
people
in
want
the synagogues.
Yeah.
In the sports, their picture in the paper.
Isn't that great?
And even what I found most precious, Ernie, you probably found this.
Yes.
Obituaries.
Oh, yes.
Covering people that they cherish, those words said about their loved ones.
Vicki, this is all fundamental information that you're talking about. And if you ask people, what they watch, they will always tell you they're watching local news, whether it's TV or reading a paper, because they want to know what's going on in their backyard.
Yes.
And that's exactly what you're doing. You're serving that need. And I like the fact that you use the word trust, because if they trust you, and if you stay away from that political spectrum, we know it's out there.
We cover politics, but I'm not a centrist one way or the other.
Yeah, you're
I'm down the middle.
Right. If you're down that road, people are going to say it's fair and it's truthful.
Yes.
And we need the truth today more than ever, don't we?
Absolutely. But I have another ingredient because, my little brain never got over wanting to be a teacher.
Oh, okay.
So I also feel we educate people. And I think that's a very big critical piece of what we do.
Absolutely.
Every day. And we're online and we're in print and we do events and we do, podcasts and we do all the things that you need to do.
One of the lines that I use when I'm talking about what I do, I say I want to inform, educate, entertain, and inspire.
Oh, okay. That's what we do.
See? And that's exactly, but that's the heart of it. And that's the real basics of journalism, good journalism. I love to ask a lot of great questions here. Great questions. I fill in the blank. What the world needs now is what?
Well, I'm always about love, and family.
Family.
I think with the craziness of life and what's going on around the world, I was just with someone from my my daughter. I went to visit her. This was before I went to see you.
Okay.
And there's the need to have people you care about and love because the world will be chaotic around us. But if you have love of family, that kind of is your basic route to happiness in life.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm blessed that I have, I'm sorry Laura passed, but she taught me more than any other human being on earth. But I have 3 other children and 6 grandchildren, and I need to touch them.
Yeah.
And they touch me. And I think that that's a key to
family,
having a life that's worthwhile on
Without
earth.
a
They're
doubt.
my legacy.
Well, but it is. I mean, and when you think about all the things that you accomplish in your life, right? I mean, it could be winning, awards. It could be having businesses. Could be making a lot of money. Could be a lot of different things, right? But in the final analysis, right, what does it come down to? Who did you love and who loved you?
Yes.
And that's what you're talking about. A family, in any form that it might be.
Yes.
And there are so many different kinds of families today, and we respect it all. But it's love, and that's the foundation of what we're talking about.
Yes.
We need that more than ever. Too much hate, anger, and violence that's happening in our world. Doesn't that frighten you?
It's very frightening. It's a very disturbing time that what I see is what happened in Little Neck with that group home.
Oh, yeah.
That the people who were listening, I went around to maybe 25 different homes doing a coffee, kind of clutches where I could explain what the group home was going to be about.
Yeah.
All those 20 people, homes that I went with 6 and 10 people, I never changed one person's mind. If they were for the group home, they stayed for it. If they were against it, they stayed against it. It wasn't until we opened the home that those who were opposed, we invited, and they looked around and they said, oh, this is what you were talking about? They weren't going to listen to what I said. So today, I see that again.
Yeah.
People who are for Trump are for Trump. That you can't change their mind, no matter what he does.
But it's a free choice.
And it's the same thing today with what's going on in Israel.
Right.
You know, when the Palestinians, it's remarkable to me how people have a set mind, and it is very hard to influence that set mind with facts. So, you know, I think it's a tremendous responsibility we have.
We do.
And I'm a big believer, I don't know if you found this when you were
go ahead.
in your own media.
Sure.
I believe in banging the drum and banging the drum and banging the drum. Come back. I mean, I call it the Geraldo factor.
Okay.
Because Geraldo was the only reporter, and I was on with Barbara Walters and Sue Simmons and Bill Buck, you know, the whole people who were in the team then.
Right.
And he's the only one who kept coming back.
Right.
He came back week after week. And I asked his producer once, 40 years later, how come you let him come back and the others came once?
Yeah.
He said, Vicki, when he went out and came back, the ratings went through the roof.
Oh, sure. Yeah, well, because he was following a story that people had a feeling for. He was passionate about it, and he demonstrated that on the air. I know him so well. But, I mean, you know, when you have a great story that touches people's lives, you go after it.
So that's the key.
Sure.
Ernie, that's the key.
Yeah.
And that's what I teach my, teach and tell my reporters and editors. Stick with the story. Go back. Get the other angle. Get this on until it's resolved. And that's what really Geraldo did. So he taught me that. I call it the Geraldo factor.
Yeah, well, that's a good thing
in coverage of the news.
Good stuff. You know, when we're talking about, you know, the business of news, you know how much is out there now. I mean, at one time it was, you know, 3 basic networks. You only had, in every city, there were 3 channels. And look what we have now. We have a plethora of information from the internet to cable, you name it, it's all there. How do you feel about that in terms of where it's going? Are we going in a good direction, or are we having difficulty? People are saying, you know what, I can't find the truth anymore. Everybody's become a journalist. People can go on the wherever they want to go, the internet, and put a story on there and not even identify themselves. So we don't know whether it's the truth or not.
It's a danger in our democracy. A danger. And how we navigate that danger will be very interesting to wait and see. You know, I've kind of learned in my life that I do put on blinders and I follow my path.
Yeah.
Because if I let myself worry about all these other things, the distractions would stop me from my forward path.
You're the frog.
Right.
You're the frog. You're
Yes.
looking forward and not
Yes.
looking back.
Yes.
And I think that's important. I think that we have to really become faithful to what we're doing. And I know that you have that commitment. And you pass that along to the reporters. And there's a mission. I think that when, you know, you run an organization like that, if you have a leader at the top that sets the tone and looks for the truth and looks to inform and educate, you're going to be doing something that's going to have positive effects and a positive impact. I applaud you. I think you're doing a great job.
Well,
great
thank
job.
you.
You really are.
I always feel that, okay, what do I have to do today?
Yeah, I know.
What do I
You
have
did a
to-
story on
how
me,
do I
too.
do it better?
I appreciate the story that you did on me and your
Well,
staff.
AM New York Metro, I'm very blessed, has
Yeah.
a huge following. But, you know, we're printing 600,000 newspapers a week. And our websites had 9.8 million people visiting them.
Yeah.
So, you know, print is alive and well.
Yes.
I often quote Mark Twain. I love Mark Twain saying.
Me too.
He says, the rumors of my demise are greatly exaggerated.
yes.
And when people tell me that print is dead,
Yeah.
I say, well, I'm no fool. I don't have stupid written across my forehead. I wouldn't put out 600,000 newspapers if they weren't taken, just in our region. We're not
Right.
talking nationally.
Right.
We're talking in our New York City region.
That's a great footprint. That's a great
you know,
footprint.
So the footprint is just extended because
Yeah.
we started Dan's Papers Palm Beach.
I
'Cause
understand.
own Dan's
You're already
Papers
out in the Hamptons, so now you're going to Palm Beach.
Yes.
Such a challenge. And I think people welcome that. And it's a lot of public relations. You've got to get out there and beat the drum, let people know who you are and what you're doing. I want to continue with my questions because I always
Yes.
have fun with that.
Okay.
What's good about America?
The ability to speak the truth, but not to speak hate. I'm very terrified at how the college presidents in some of the leading institutions of our country
It's become very controversial.
have not equivocally said, hate has no place on our campus. I am
There's a lot of pressure to change that now.
Well, I'm a big believer that, I don't know if you remember Rodgers and Hammerstein's song from South Pacific, "You've got to be taught to hate and to love." That was from childhood,
classic.
that people are taught to hate and to love. And I think that it's a job in our world to be able to find ways for people to not, from childhood, be taught hate.
Right.
And that comes, I think, from a family where you are sharing values and ethics and morals. And there are a lot of good people. But sometimes, and you know this better than anyway, Ernie, sometimes a very small number of people pretend to make a big noise.
That's true.
When
That's
we
true.
started our group home in Little Neck,
Yeah.
we had this organization that sued us. 4 people led the parade, but they pretended to be a big group.
Yeah.
And sometimes politicians listen to that small group rather than the biggest voice, which is not as loud. But this is very small, and somehow people take that as power and truth.
Well, you know, a small voice can be heard. And when you have people listening, and that voice has a good message, and certainly given us the truth, that has a lot of power. And I think that, you know, in the world of journalism, you're able to do that. And I think that it's great. If you were to pass along some information, a piece of advice that you would give a newborn, and they would keep that information somewhere in a later date when they're able to perhaps really understand it, what advice would you offer to a newborn child today?
Well, I think persistence is the power of our lives, of success. To be successful takes hard work and persistence.
And persistence.
And I think if you have those 2 ingredients, whatever your mission in life is, you will be a success. And I think too many people give up too soon.
Yeah. Well, you know, you need people around you. You need people who encourage you. And you need people who are going to believe in you and give you the opportunity to do something. But I think you're right. Perseverance is important. I also have a thing. I say plan your work and then work your plan.
Yes.
Because many times you put something down on paper and it's there and you look at it, but you're not really working it. You have to look at it every day and say, you know what? What am I doing to get closer to this goal? Because that's, to me, a very important part of your life. Purpose is very important in your life. Let me ask you something, another question. Who is your hero? Do you have any heroes in life?
Well, you know, my hero growing up was Eleanor Roosevelt.
Oh, yeah, she was classic.
You know, I mean, I had read her book, and I was very impressed when she said, "You've got to be a lady, and you must have a handkerchief in your purse, not tissues." I always carry a handkerchief.
Not tissues, right?
I learned that from Eleanor Roosevelt, but I
Yeah.
learned other things. You know, her kindness. Kindness is a very special thing.
Yeah.
I created a column in my newspapers called Acts of Kindness. It's almost like your positive speaking, because sometimes people don't look for the kindness in others.
Oh, you have to find that.
And to be kind and to find kindness. And this was a woman who had the power to bring kindness to people around the world.
Yes, she did.
And she was not just a speaker, she was an activist.
Yes, she was a role
and
model.
she was my inspiration to be an activist. And no, you just have to be persistent and keep fighting for what's right. And she did that.
She sure did.
And so she has been a great inspiration. And the other one I have to say is Geraldo.
Yes.
Because I would have never dreamt of being in the news business.
I know, but he
How
was an
life brings you
inspiration
around.
for you.
He was
you know?
my inspiration.
You know, one last final thought before we close, because I could go on for another hour with you. I did something recently, a commentary on the air, and it was about spirituality. And a lot of people, you know, are uncomfortable using that word. And for some reason, they feel that, you know, you're getting into perhaps religious connotations. I don't look at it that way.
No, I agree.
Spirituality is just who you are. what you stand for, what you believe in. And to me, spirituality is important, and it comes down to believing in something, being kind to other people, and respecting each other, and knowing that we all come from the same source, and connecting the dots and knowing that we're brothers and sisters, and we have to honor the dignity of each person. And then my final thought was, spirituality has a lot to do with enthusiasm. And enthusiasm comes from a Greek word, enthusiasmos, which means to be filled with the Spirit of God. And to me, that says it all. If we have a sense that we are here for a purpose, there's a Creator that loves us all, to me, I think that's the greatest gift that you can have in your life. I really do.
Well, I think, this spirituality and all the aspects of it has to be in all of us. And I think for some reason, hate has taken over.
Yeah.
The kind of kindness you're talking about.
Got to stop that.
And I think somehow, some way, I think that I've always had faith in the American people.
Me too.
That they would see goodness. And we are a moral country. And to have our people spoken about in such negative terms,
that
that
has
sends
to
a
stop.
wong message.
It's a wrong message.
And
it's not who we are.
No, I don't believe
No,
it's who we are.
It's not who we are. We need to stop
So
that.
I'm a big believer too, and it's a maybe strange way to end, but to say people have to get out and vote. People have to get involved in
They
their
have to be heard.
communities.
They have to take part in this system.
Yes.
Absolutely. They do have a voice, and they have to be heard.
And if you don't take the
Yeah.
voice, then life goes out of control.
Right.
But it is in each of our power. And I think we have been able to engage
I
people
love that.
and give them power.
You know
Use
what?
your power.
I love that as a closing thought. And we become, from what we've been talking about, peacemakers rather than troublemakers.
Good one.
Right?
I like
Very
that.
important. Victoria Schneps, you're terrific.
Oh, thank you.
I love you. I'm so proud of everything that you have done and will continue to do, and there are miles to go. Last quote that I use a lot: don't go where the path may lead, go where there's no path, and leave a trail.
Lovely.
And that's what you've done.
Beautiful.
I love you, Frog, and
Thank
I love
you.
you too.
Thank
Victoria
you.
Schneps, great guest. Thank you for watching, everybody. We'll see you next time, and stay positive.